Hello, Guardians fans. This is a make-right edition of Locked On Guardians, a video-only edition, just due to time. Yes, Friday's episode was a bit of all over the place. It was the mock draft. Now, normally that is one of my most successful March articles of the year. Not articles, this is a podcast. Videos of the year, podcast of the year. What happened? Well, I couldn't get the proper studio stuff to load up. Canva claimed that everything was premium, and I just wasn't feeling super well. Bad combination. Totally decided to skip the Texas Rangers. Everyone who commented, you are right. I skipped the Texas Rangers. I don't know why. I don't know what subconscious issue. Being a child of the 80s, the 90s Rangers were a bane on my existence. Rusty Greer and Pudge Rodriguez haunted many of... I don't think they really knocked Cleveland out in the postseason or anything like that, but they were an in-season annoyance. That is for sure. Juan gone. But as you can see, this is going to be a trimmed down bonus video where I can actually give you the list. I wrote it out fully this time, so I'm going to be looking down and talking about how things change when, you leave off the fourth pick in the draft. So I'm also going to go deeper. I'm going to go to 36. I wrote it all the way so this we get the Dodgers and the Mets. So I cover every team this way. Then I also forgot to tag this in like every playlist so nobody watched the original. So if you're watching this one, go back and watch Friday's episode if you want in-depth details. If you want to know why the Guardians are going to take Matt Shaw, I already explained it a few days ago. If you want to know why Dylan Cruz won, well, I mean, you should know by now everything is Dylan Cruz. But yes, so official order, Pittsburgh, Dylan Cruz, outfielder, 1. And then just... I can't help but give some analysis. Best college hitter I have seen. That's just the way of it. Adley Rutschman's the only guy who's come close. 2, Nationals, Paul Skenes. It feels like those are the top 2 guys right now. If it's not Cruz, it's Skenes. He's got the sweeper that everyone loves. Tigers, 3. This is where it gets interesting. Wyatt, Langford. To me, it's a top 3 player draft. That's my personal feel. I feel there's 3 guys, and then you go to the next tier. And I think it's silly to not take Langford right there. Tigers 8 shortstops. Rangers 4. The team I skipped changes things significantly. They've gone with prep talent recently. They were a prep team, then a super conservative team, and one could argue in a way they kind of took a high prep player a year ago. But they took Kumar Rocker and saved a lot of money with that selection. Kumar Rocker was a player whose value was down, who had previously been thought to be a high-valued pick. Kind of a selection we'd see from the Nationals or even the Guardians, where sometimes they like to use the previous year's value if a guy has slid. Who's the guy whose value has slid? Right now it's Chase Dollander, and he's not the best chase in his pitching staff. He is not the Friday starter anymore. I think when you're looking at this, and the Rangers get the most talk because I skipped them, if they're going to follow that route, and they have been a little more pitcher heavy, last year, Dollander gives you a chance at an ace. He does. Now, my concern is I don't have the advanced data on him, and people have been lower on him throughout this process, and they were lower on him before the season began, and that makes me a little nervous. And regression in a junior year also makes me nervous. Now, I thought Kumar Rocker was a terrible selection, and I thought Jack Leiter was a terrible selection. So if you're looking at a selection that makes me nervous that I would not love at 4, when you look at some of the other talents on this board, listen, Dollander's probably going to be 6th. Leiter was like 5th on my board. There were guys I liked a lot more, but I thought the last few years the Rangers have been opposed to my point of view. If they're going to keep loading up on arms, I think it goes Chase there, which changes the Twins. And you kind of hit this point in this draft where it's like, who from the next tier makes the most sense? And I want to make sure not that I'm going to get any of the pronunciations right. Listen, if you are watching this and you are not a fan of Locked On Guardians, I'm going to do my little COA right here, which is I am a podcaster, writer, baseball draft guy who has attention deficit disorder with hyperactivity and dyslexia, and I have problems with pronunciations, so I'm going to butcher many of them. But here with this selection, when I'm looking at the Twins, Hurston Waldrep makes sense, the pitcher from Florida. Now, some places don't have him in the top 10. I think he's been a little bit underrated right now. The fastball is dynamic. Doesn't always command it. The split change is a great secondary pitch. The slider is a great... I'm also kind of curious what's going on, why I see random clipping on here, but he's got a chance for 3 above average plus pitches. Not the biggest guy. There's been some points where the control is a concern, but I think, when you look at taking Chase Petty a few years ago, this is a college-heavy team. They haven't necessarily switched full-on to pitching. They took Brooks Lee when he slid to them. If you want to look for a guy similar to Brooks Lee, and that was kind of my debate here. Is it Jacob Gonzalez or is it Hurston Waldrep? And I went with Waldrep because it's not a great pitcher class, and I thought that maybe they'll jump on the pitcher here and then look to get a hitter later. Again, very weird video quality issues. I feel like I'm shooting a VHS, so I hope people are enjoying that. Oakland, Enrique, Bradfield. Listen, I've had him there since November. Reds, Walker Jenkins. I think he is kind of consensus number 1. Prep guy, Royals, 8. Max Clark. They have drafted Indiana Prep before. It feels like consensus number 2. Might be the highest guy on most boards at this point. Isn't mine, but most places. Rockies, Jacob Gonzalez. I think they would go for SEC production over the son of Jack Wilson, which then leads to the Marlins at 10, taking Jacob Wilson, son of Jack Wilson. One of the hardest players to strike out. Should be a quick mover. Plays a Grand Canyon, not as strong of a program. And I also want to point out, just go back to Jacob Gonzalez, I think I forgot to mention, it's like he won't even turn 20 until the end of May. That's another big point in his favor. I feel like we're all sleeping on him because he's not sexy. He doesn't run well. He doesn't hit for power. He just seems to always get on base. And I think he has a chance to stick it short. But Wilson, I don't know if I feel like him and Gonzalez are kind of similar level defenders. Wilson just bat-to-ball skills. He's nearly impossible to strike out at his level. Angels. If they lack Zach Neto, I do still think Tommy Troy makes a lot of sense. I think Troy is an ascending name, ascending value player to know. They've gone more college than prep early. D-backs, Arjun Nimala is a player that I think should be solidly in the top 10. I don't think he's too far off from the 2 prep outfielders, if off at all. D-backs love upside. Cubs, at this point in time, originally had Waldrep. So this is another pick that gets moved. If he's off the board, Rhett Lauder. Some places have Lauder higher than Waldrep anyway. So the Wake Forest pitcher, I get nervous with Lake Arms. He has pitched really well this year. He has all the pieces and parts, and this is a team that has gone pitching. So we move on from the Cubs to the Red Sox. Noble Meyer is just too good of a value. When Bloom was with Tampa, as I stated, they would go for high ceiling players. They would go for pitchers and prep talent. Colt Emerson, if they want to go with another, up the middle plus hit tool type like they've taken in the last 3 drafts. Roman Martin, if they want to go with the California version, because their last 3 high picks have all been first rounders, I should say, have all been California up the middle guys with plus hit tools. White Sox, Aiden Miller. He's another guy who could go in the top 10. They like power profiles. They've gone ceiling prep the last 2 years. Being on the board, natural fit. The Giants, another pick that gets switched because they had Lauder. So this instead becomes Kyle Teal, another catcher, because Patrick Bailey hasn't worked and Joey Bart hasn't worked. So let's just keep going and keep trying. Teal he doesn't strike out. He's got good power. He's handled some good stuff at the plate. One of the hardest guys, I think the hardest player to strike out from a major conference. It wasn't great on the Cape last year. I don't think he got the biggest look on the Cape, if I'm being honest, just due to timing. But I think he is one of those guys that has been ascending all year. Plus athlete, is going to stick behind the plate, and some power potential. And just everything there it's a good starter site. You just have the Virginia worries. So Giants, another catcher. Moving down my list, Orioles, Colton Ledbetter, who I've left off the original one. That was another little error that I forgot to have him. I think he is ascending. I think all he has done is step into the SEC and dominate, much like Paul Skenes has, but from the hitting perspective. I think he can handle center. I think he'll hit enough in a corner. I think he is a top 20 talent. Brewers, 18. Breeden Taylor, simple. He's still on the board. Fits their approach. Hit tool, some power, can play a few spots. Very much their guy. Tampa, Colt Emerson stays the same. It's tempted to go with Blake Mitchell or Thomas White here, but I don't know. Colt Emerson seems like potentially a Tampa type of guy. Blue Jays, Thomas White still on the board. If you're looking for bloodlines, because we know the Blue Jays love those, the other guy to really consider here would be Tanner Witt, who hasn't had quite the year I think a lot of us hoped he'd have at Texas. But I was trying to think. George Lombard Jr. is another one. Not Homer Bailey. Homer Bailey is the pitcher. Why am I Homer Bush Jr. is maybe a guy to watch on day 2 of the draft for them. St. Louis, Jerron Watts-Brown. Listen, I've said he is Cleveland's number 1 target, as I've learned the last few years. The Cardinals and the Guardians tend to overlap, or the guys I often think would be a logical Cleveland target end up going to the Cardinals. Seattle, Blake Mitchell, top 20 talent on every board, best prep catcher, one of the best athletic. He's not a great runner, but pop time is great, power is great. A lot of reasons they liked Harry Ford. You could see here with Mitchell, there's a chance that Ford moves to outfield, and if they're going to load up, I think there's a lot of people that have him as the number 1 player left. Cleveland at 23. Matt Shaw, I had someone comment, great, another infielder. Here's the thing with Matt Shaw. MVP of the Cape, we know they love that. Top performer in the Cape. He could play multiple positions on the infield. I think he could probably play in the outfield. He's got potential plus power. Isn't that what you want, Cleveland fans? Don't you want a guy who hits for power? This guy could be wrong in this, but I feel like he's hit a 500 footer this year. Like he hit 22 home runs last year in college baseball. He hits for power. He hits for average. He has done it all. A plus runner, like 55s across the board. If you want to have an issue, it's that, he plays a lot of different positions or can, but none of them well. So he's almost, maybe he ends up a left fielder, but he is a do-it-all type who, in my offseason mock, I had going 11 to Anaheim, so just a value here. Because it's the same thing, like, you're like, oh, you're dropping them to Cleveland. No, like, I mean, Braden Taylor, at points in time, I thought might end up being a top 10 guy. I know I got him going 18, so that's just the way this cookie crumbles. Now that, let's see, I said I'm going 36 deep, more than halfway through. With this being just kind of a rando video, I'm just going to let YouTube insert ads. So I will apologize for that. When there's weird pauses, they'll have some weird ads. This is, like I said, it's a bonus video. Going through Atlanta Braves, changing this one up. I think I had Brock Wilken go into them in the one from last week, and just looking at the list here, they were still heavy in prep arms a year ago, and they didn't necessarily go with the name prep arms. They went for some guys with some ceiling, some athleticism, but I'm going to give him Charlie Soto, who feels like the number 3 guy on every board. Super young, super athletic, super big. You can dream on what he becomes. San Diego at 10, so he was the high ceiling player here, and I think it's Bryce Eldridge, who a lot of people like quite a bit, maybe the best two-way guy, 6'7", and I feel, well, they took an undersized righty, well, like not undersized, but they took a smaller righty a year ago with their first pick from the prep ranks. I think the 6'7" would be enticing to San Diego. New York Yankees, Nolan Shondell, the small school guy who's just hit. They've had no problems going small school in round 1. Philly, with the changes to this mock, I have had an absolute crud ton of prep pitchers kind of running off in the 20s here, just, back-to-back recently. Thomas Waits, that's 3 total in the 20s after not having 1 until the middle of the first round. So the next guy up would be, again, this is another change, Travis Sakura. It's been a few years since Texas has had a first-round prep player. 6'6", big, throws triple digits. What more does Dave Dombrowski need? I mean, that is Texas, big, throws hard. He's already 19, if you want to look for a knock. Turned 19 just a few days ago. So, I mean, he is a very old high school senior. Moving down, Houston Astros, Brock Wilken. Huge exit velocities, chance to elevate his value, flip him later on, or maybe develop and play him. I think he is a solid selection here with this selection. So that's another change just with guys sliding in my own head. 29, Seattle. 3 first-round picks. They can just go for the best available. In most places, they'll be Colin Hawk, the shortstop out of Parkview, Georgia. 2-way guy, was a 3-star QB recruit, I want to say. Could have gone and played college football. Is set to go to Ole Miss for baseball. Maybe I'm going to get myself in trouble. One of the Mississippi schools for baseball. Parkview's been a successful baseball program. You got to have the money to sign him. And Seattle, with 3 picks in the top 30, certainly would there. And then I don't know if he'd be under slot, but a good value here who could be around slot, or maybe, if you're able to save a little bit here, would be Jack Hurley, who's just played really well at Vautech. I think he fits kind of some of what they look for in players there. Tampa, 31, I have Cam Johnson sliding to them, the left-handed pitcher, yet another prep arm. IMG Academy, second lefty in this class, super athletic. The Mets at 32, they went with performers a year ago, some big names, and not so big names. Like, I love Jet Williams, but he wasn't maybe the known name. Kevin Prada slid to them. Yohandy Morales has started to hit, like how we thought he would. He has gotten better as the year has gone on, and I think he'd just be a value selection here. Again, could be a potential trade asset, but they went more proven talent a year ago. Brewers, for whatever reason, Travis Honeyman to the Brewers just feels like much like Colt Emerson to Tampa. I don't know. I'm kind of stuck there. Twins, Kevin McGonigal, up the middle type, and a guy who feels like he's probably not going to get to college, but this is about the last few picks, or someone could keep, be able to sign him. Miami, Hunter Owen, left-hand pitcher out of Vandy. They have a recruit team that was set up of a former recruit coordinator at Vandy. Now, he was long gone when they recruited Hunter Owen, but we saw Miami go with safer selections a year ago. The safe selection here would be Hunter Owen, the left-handed pitcher. This tier of college arms is, it's a big, wide-ranging group, depending on who you like. But hey, he's a lefty who fills the zone. It's a safe selection. And then what do the Dodgers do? Last year, the Dodgers went college early, but they didn't have a first-rounder. Here at 36, I don't know, I kind of feel like Walker Martins is someone who is going to get snapped up at some point. The Dodgers have gone more prep arm than prep bat, but I really like Walker Martin. Again, another guy who's 19, and he's been 19 since February, so, an older guy, probably be a little lower on my list when I really sit down to it. Just a good athlete, and let's see, I believe a two-way guy as well. We'll see where he goes. If they're going to go with a prep arm here, that's where I kind of struggle a little bit more, just kind of looking through my lists. Like Cole Schoenwetter is who I had to Atlanta in my preseason one. That's probably the next prep arm. If they went the college bat route at this point in the draft, is it? I don't know. Some people would probably put Gedloff from Virginia, or what am I blanking on? The Cole Carrig. I can't remember where he plays. San Diego State. Carrig could make some sense due to them liking versatility. Listen, this is a 17-minute bonus video. Just wanted to do this again. If you want it in depth on all the picks, you can. I'm gonna put the link to Friday's video in this as well. I just wanted to have one that is straight the mock, and just none of the issues or tech issues from Friday. So you can go and watch both, and you put them together, and you've got a solid hour of draft content to sit back and hopefully enjoy. Make sure to subscribe to Locked on Guardians. If you like this content, let me know. But the important thing, again, is I want to get it right. I want to leave something that is useful and valuable. And I don't want to feel like I let the listener and or fan down. So thank you all. And if you want more draft content, let me know. And also, subscribe, do that stuff to let me know this is a thing that you would like to see more of, either in short or long form on Locked on Guardians. But thank you all, and go MLB draft, go.